Wanna know how I made this diorama? Hi there you scale model kit lovers and welcome in my super tiny shed. I'm going to show you how I built the diorama for the Mini Cooper in 1/24 scale. This project cost me 300 hours to accomplish and today I'm going to show you all that in just over 20 minutes. If you're new here, please subscribe to my channel and please like the video if you like it. No visible engine. A diorama should have a good plan and that's why I drew it in scale. The inspiration for the dio comes from a road in Birmingham. I sourced a lot of modeling ideas from Night Shift. Go check him out on YouTube. During the build, this lovely Robin jumped around in my garden next to my shed, and later on you'll see him featuring in this diorama. In scale, of course. Prepping the plastic parts is always a bit of a boring part of scale modeling, but I gave it all my loving and drilled holes and made scratches and dents as this car will end up in a sorry state. For the dent I used an incense stick as it gets really hot and makes the plastic melt easily. The crusty layer, which represents rust, is made with micro balloons and wood glue. Robby. Spray painting time, and boy did I spray paint. Layer after layer to get the proper results. Chipping medium was the most uncomfortable to spray. It looks more like hosing on dishwashing liquid. I should warn you for using light rust from Vallejo, it gives you synesthesia tendencies. Brushing off the top layer reveals the underlying one, which I protected with matte varnish. The roof is sprayed multiple times to get the proper coverage. Same for the body that looks pretty in Vallejo's UK Azure. With all tools I could lay my hands on, I made scratches on the body after I wetted it with tap water. The roof got the same treatment and my signature, and after that it was sealed with varnish. This scrapyard Mini gets a door in a different color and I chose a mixture of emerald green and metal medium, a tinge I really like. I made a design for a racy sticker to go on the door that looks the part to me. Painting the window trims is not for the faint of heart. For the chrome trims I mixed Vallejo light grey and Model Air chrome to give it a dulled appearance. Dark grey wash by Tamiya is the best choice for panel lines in my opinion. Painting rust is fun to do. You start from the inside of the rust spot going out and make the rust tones ever so much lighter. I just look at a lot of reference pictures to get it right. Rustifying went on in the evening hours, also on the roof. Here is the contrast even more pronounced, and with delicate dotting techniques and rust streaks it gets more and more convincing. Did I say window trims are daunting? Well, painting those metal trims in the rubber trims is super daunting. Microscale crystal clear is used to fix the windows as it dries clear and doesn't fog. I made scratch-built B-pillars for the interior, cause this dio isn't only about the exterior. Most of the graffiti and tags are rubbish, but I like this one very much and wanted to recreate it on the Mini. I designed a mask line in Illustrator and had my silhouette cutting plotter cut it out on thin plastic. With some raised edges glued on the back it creates overspray, which I wanted. Painting the shapes in the sprayed area is scary. It's all about judging proportions, getting the shapes right. There was a nice tag too, probably from the same artist, that I wanted to have on the bonnet. Please help my channel grow and give this video a like. But the green turned out a little too light. Sir Alec Isigonis, the designer of the Mini, is a hero and I wanted to honor him with a tag I designed myself. So I made a rather swirly one. The other tag was repainted twice because I didn't like the contrast of it. You could hardly see it and that's a shame of all the hard work. So a darker green did the trick. These two colors can only refer to one country. In honor of my fellow Ukrainian modelers, I painted this tag on the Mini. Let's hope there will be peace soon. In this kit there is a complete engine and you'll have to build it even if you don't want to show it as I do. That's because the front suspension is an integral part of the engine build and you need it for the front wheels.
That sounds good.
The underbody got the whole shebang of layers too. First priming it, then spraying it with dark rust, sealed it with matte varnish, followed by a chipping medium. After that you hose on turd brown, and when that's dry you wet it with tap water and brush off the paint where you want the dark older rust to peek through. I went even further by trying to use pigments, but that was no real success in my view. Anyway, no one but us is gonna see the underside of the floor pan ever again. The exhaust of the Cooper version of the Mini is a cool looking pipe in the center of the car. With micro balloons I gave it some rust texture, and rust paints and a dab of black oil paint to represent soot finished it off. The inside of the pan was made dirtier by using acrylic washes from Vallejo. The original seats have piping and I learned the hard way how to make this. Turns out it's best to first glue it with normal Tamiya glue, the white bottle, to the seat, and after that you bend it and melt it on with extra thin cement, the green bottle. The seats are two-tone colored. 3 of them will be light blue to match the body, but 1 will be red. This one will be out of the car and have a prominent position on the dial. The seat lag, so to speak, was made of brass rod. Tamiya dark grey wash gives the seat some more depth. The red seats got some highlights painted on and dry brushed on. These simple tricks make objects just look better. I told you the seat would be left outside of the Mini. Well, it will look like it had a hard time out there. Oil paints are excellent for this, as you can fiddle around with them for a long time as they dry slow. Did someone say the white stains are bird poo? I wanted an object to go on a seat and designed this Lucas battery just from its advertisements from the 50s. Cleaning the 3D print takes some time, but it is so satisfying to make a small 2-part kit by yourself. I spray painted it and made the top element look a very bleached out red. The details of the print are highlighted in order to have them stand out more. I made the decals myself too. After a dirtying up of the battery, I had made my first scratch built part of this diorama. Let some more follow. The original steering wheel in the kit could use a detailing treatment. With extra thin cement I melted the burrs. All the work went into making the steering wheel appear to be made from wood. The secret lies in the last stage of painting, adding a coat of Tamiya X27 clear orange. This ties the other brown colors together and turns the steering wheel into a very shiny one. I made a decal for the core of the wheel myself and protected it for later weathering stages with a layer of clear varnish. Look what a few simple interventions can do. The stick shifter had a massive shaft in my opinion, so I made a new skinnier one from brass rod. I couldn't reuse the knob, so I made one myself from evergreen rod. A bit of sanding and chopping later, it was done. It had to be tested, of course. Painting the H-shifting scheme was a mega precision job, but I do like those things. Talking about precision painting, the dash was in need of such a remedy too. Silver fairings all over the place. I admit it takes a steady hand. The decals for the gauges were punched out with a hollow pipe. After those were stuck on as good as it gets, they were put behind glass with a thick layer of gloss clear. The lower part of the dashboard was fixed to the main component. Dash done! Other interior parts were processed with what I call fake chipping, painting damaged chips by using white to represent the primer and a dark brown dot to look like rust. A technique I learned from night shift. The interior of the car could use more objects, so I made books. Not just any books, but 1 in 24 scale auto courses, the yearly annual of Formula 1. I do collect those in real life. This one is from 1978 and signed by world champion Mario Andretti. I also produced this canister. When you support me on Patreon, you can get this design for free. I told you this diorama is more than only about the exterior. I went all out on the interior, which cost me heaps of time. Mix oil brushers are handy as you can use the oil straight out of the bottle. There is no need to de-oil it on paper. Putting oils on my tediously made dash was a bit daunting, but the result turned out fine. Pigments are harder to use, I find, but you can create actual mass, as in volume, like with these dirt piles. In the wheel wells I use this vomit-colored paste. That has a good texture, but an awful tint. I will paint that later on. For another project I made these carton boxes and I wanted to use one in the interior. The inside of the Mini is starting to fill up now. Don't you just love these bottles made by Asuka? Once painted and decaled, they add so much joy to the model. I punched some American oak leaves from real American oak leaves. How about that for being true to realism? Bringing together all the parts that cost me so much time to make really is a pleasure. The wells got their promised coat of brown and the precious steering wheel and books were layered in dust. You know now what's inside the box. Finally, it was time for a happy marriage between the underbody and the upper body, so to speak. Always a bit of an anxious moment. Will it fit? But it did, and the engine was hidden forever behind the bonnet. The most shiny part of this little heap of rust is the rearview mirror. I didn't glue the roof to the car. Because of the ridges it can be clicked on, so showing the inside of the Mini is always an option. For the rear window I held the bumper sticker bout. A prize-winning interactive competition in which you could win a place for the sticker you wanted there. It turned out to be a nice array of stickers and of course a bleached out GB label was present. These are parts of my Tamiya Jaguar chrome sprue, which I used as an example of the Mini chrome parts.
It stinks! Oh, even through the filters.
I already de-chromed those earlier on, but the process is easy and quick. First I sprayed the parts dark brown, as this is the base of the rust. I wanted to recreate the typical chrome rust look, which is very spotty. I did this using very fine kitchen salt, sprinkled on wet parts. When that was dry, I sprayed them with Vallejo Model Air Chrome. Then the salt was brushed and peeled off the parts, leaving those dark brown spots behind. With Model Air Light Rust, which is thin, I hand painted the areas around the dark spots, giving it a realistic look. The emblem that goes on the hood didn't come with decals, so I did some painting with chirurgical precision on it. On with the light that I painted in Tamiya enamel paint instead of acrylic paint for the first time. Turned out fine. The trims were painted in a mix of Vallejo light grey and Model Air chrome. The eyes of the Mini got some lenses fixed in them. Zaanse mayonaise is a treat that goes with French fries here in Holland, but the aluminium of the tube can be well used for model making. For a number plate, for instance. The benefit of this material is that it can be bent as you're about to witness in a mow. Mounting time for all the different chrome parts like the grille and the headlights. Fixing the precious emblem required a super steady hand. The number plate got a twist and turn as it must have seen a lot of curbs and tow bars in its life. CA glue mates the parts to the body. Satoshi Araki invented this method of making a flat tire, which takes some practice but looks quite persuasive. Please use flexible CA glue. The rim is aluminium in real life and on my car it is wasted, of course. So no metal paints were used here, just greys. Aluminium oxide can be imitated splattering on white surface primer, as this has the best viscosity. With dark grey wash and some rust tones I detailed the wheel further. Making the tires dirty was done with Vallejo pigments mixed with airbrush thinner from the same brand. First bring in the pigments with a bit of thinner, after that's dry, wipe some off with a cotton bud, drench in that same thinner. I use different colors of oil paints to weather the wheels. These air valves made by Decalcas were fixed in place for even more realism. When all four were done, the Mini finally found its feet.
Robby!
The chrome door handles got a rust treatment too, but not with salt this time, but using the fake chipping technique. I painted the bumper stickers with a layer of varnish to protect them from what is coming their way. A true weathering storm. With the whites I wanted to make the sides a bit more bleached out. The roof is subject to dirt and algae residues, just as the bonnet is too. For weathering the windows I took this reference photo. I wanted to recreate those characteristic streaky algae patches. I tried this method on a leftover piece of transparent sprue first, and the Uptylum 502 odorless thinner doesn't fog the glass. Once it has dried, it will look a lot like this. The body of the Mini was dotted on with oil paints and soaked in odorless thinner to spread it all out. Fuel streaks, this petrol is probably stolen with these gas prices, are made with MIG enamel paints. The right hand side will be greener as it will be close to the vegetation in the diorama. I like those black stipply mustiness streaks on the car. The headlights and indicators are made less shiny with this white oil paint. Then I did the final oil weathering passes with all the colors I used before. Even the wipers got some algae green on the rubbers. I gave the edges a bit more faintness and highlighted the hinges in one go. I like adding these furry patches on the car very much. There's always a bit of moss growing in the gutters of the roof, certainly when abandoned. The Mini also got a fair amount of mud splatter. Warning, always test this on your dummy model before you do this on your project. It takes a while to get a hang of splattering. So there you go, ladies and gents. The Mini all worked up from this virginal white plastic to a rusty wreck in 12. I repeat, 12 layers. Let's make a nice environment for it.
Robby.
As a base for the diorama, I use a polyurethane or PU block of insulation material. This is best cut using a foam cutter like this one from Proxxon. Pieces that can't be cut with the foam cutter are sliced with a hobby knife. I wanted the sides of the block to be neat and tidy so they don't distract from the dio, and made them from evergreen plastic. Mark made this beautiful oak wood base for me on which the whole diorama will be mounted. Knauf Reno band is excellent to make terrain textures with. Sand and small stones were sprinkled on the wet plaster of Paris, and even footsteps were pressed in. I used one of the tires to make track marks. And this well was designed by me looking closely at a Google Street View image. With a little squeaky sound, it was pressed in the foam, after which I bitumenized the road with Vallejo black lava. I also did this with the pavement. Black lava gives a nice looking asphalt texture and it is easy to use. I like road signs in the diorama as they add to the realism of it. I made this dented one using Street View as an inspiration once again. Aluminium tubes will feature as poles for the sign. The clamps are scratch built from evergreen plastics. I test fitted it and concluded it was A-OK. A wall will be present too on the dio, and for making this I borrowed a large amount of night shift tips and tricks. Even dental tools were used to make head joints. Also, a lump of folded aluminium foil is handy to batter the bricks and make these less smooth. With this self-made tool you can make the wall look more uneven and interesting. I made these wall tiles myself and glued them on the PU, which I sprayed in Tamiya NATO black. After that dried, a meticulous task of hand painting bricks was carried out. The joints between the tiles were filled with putty and fine sand and was pressed in to give it roughness. A night shift technique was used for filling the joints of the wall. A mixture of plaster of Paris and fine sand was rubbed in and fixed with VMS ballast freeze. Some algae and dirt streaks add to the faded glory of this wall. Two different colors of lichen are dotted on the wall tiles and some furry pads give it another notch of credibility. This ivy by Ammo, which is lasered paper, is awesome too. Together with a real twig, it comes to life. These grass balls are tipped by night shift. With these you can replicate fine twigs on the ground. Another great asset he uses is ballast freeze by VMS, which fixes stuff easily with an eyedropper bottle. A static grass applicator was bought on eBay. This tool makes grass static in order for it to land vertical on a pre-wood glue lubricated soil. Make sure to ground the mesh of the applicator after use. Its charge is hefty, I can tell from experience. I made grass stuffed myself too and planted quite a bit of them on the scene. Hundreds of leaves were punched and glued on the diorama. With brush hairs and Vallejo plastic putty I made these grass spikes. You can also make some with sawdust for diversity. This set of dandelion leaves was designed by me and etched in brass some years ago. A bit of folding later provides me with a nice plant base. Asparagus from my mom's garden is also a very nice addition to the dio, but its leaves or needles need to be fixed after they've dried. What not to like about this beautiful seaweed by Joe Fix? With all these different plants and bits, a nice theater comes to shape. To some, this seems a mad undertaking, spraying all of the diorama black. It is a technique made popular by Night Shift and it gives you fake shadows. And also the possibility to build up the colors yourself. First I spray paint the dry grass at the bottom and after that I color the soil. Gradually you make the grass a bit lighter green. Adding yellow or yellowish tones makes the plants come alive. I hand painted the leaves to make them a bit more prominent. I even went so far to paint the veins on the leaves. I painted the asphalt light grey as it is almost never black, but left the recessed areas dark grey. For painting the curbs, I used a mixture of light grey and a beige color. The well was dry brushed in a lighter shade to make the edges pop. Tamiya washes work fine to make shadow accents around the pebbles. The road sign was stickered with homemade decals and I made a sticker of Birmingham's local football club on it. A graffiti tag was designed by me and hand painted on the sign. This was tough, as you don't get a second chance at positioning the tag in a proper composition. With a piece of household sponge I replicated the black dotty patterns, which is a product of trees and plants in real life. The Robin. I promised you it would take the leading role in this dio. Eventually I made it from Fimo clay on a print brought to scale for the correct dimensions. Thin copper thread is used as a skeleton.
And now the bird is in the oven, roasting.
Indeed, Birdie needs a bake-off to harden. Fabricating its feet was one of the fiddliest and nerve-wracking jobs in this whole build. With Vallejo paints I colored the robin and even managed to get a glimmer on its eyes. Back to the dandelions. Out of yellow felt I punched the flowers. These furry discs were glued on copper thread stems. And then it was time to glue the Mini on the base. This operation scared me, but wood glue got my back. I made some nice garbage items and putting in place all the pieces I worked on for so long really pleased me. The robin was fixed to the chair with flexible super glue that I used for sticking it to the dio too. The nameplate leaves no clue on who is the king of this diorama. Some last leaves were put in place and then finally, after more than 300 hours, the whole diorama was finished.
That's it.
Yeah! It took me a total of 500 hours, including filming and editing, in which I shot more than 32 hours of footage. My friend Frank and I made this nice short film in which the diorama comes to life. Please enjoy! Please know that this diorama is, at the time of speaking, for sale. There is a link in the description below to get in contact. If you've liked this video, please consider to subscribe yourself to the channel and hit that like thumb thing if you liked it. And don't forget, don't be sobby. Build a car model kit and watch Hobby Robby.